Alright, so today we're getting ready to start prepping the interior for insulation. Over here in my neck of the woods, the most common type of insulation is bubble foil or polyethylene foil insulation. That's actually what I used for the first shed I built. In fact, I saved most of it when I was taking the first shed down because I was thinking I could reuse it. In the process of building this new shed, however, I started doing some research on other insulation methods. I didn't know then, but apparently, fiberglass insulation, which is commonly used in the US and Canada, is also available here, and so is rock wool insulation, which is made from mineral wool. I actually almost went with rock wool insulation until I came across this brand called EcoFoam. I had only seen spray foam insulation being done on YouTube and was always under the impression that this type of insulation was not available in the Philippines. Well, as it turns out, spray foam insulation is available here. After doing some research on the merits, pros, and cons of all the different types of insulation available, I decided that spray foam insulation was going to be the best option for me. But before I talk about why I went with spray polyurethane foam insulation, let's talk about the prep work needed prior to getting it done. Because there's quite a bit that needs to be done before you call EcoFoam over and get them to do the spraying. The first is your structure needs to have a roof on it. Now, I know this is probably a no-brainer, but if you are a DIYer like me, this wasn't exactly my first instinct. My initial plan was to just frame and sheath the roof, then lay a couple of layers of tarp over it as a temporary roof so that I could work on installing the insulation before I shingled the roof. Well, I couldn't do that. One reason I couldn't do that had to do with these 1/8 inch gaps I left on the sheathing for expansion and contraction. Because if there were any leaks in the tarp, water might damage the spray foam insulation. The second thing I had to do was make sure all my blocking for the ceiling panels and electrical lines were all laid out. The reason is because once these guys spray all these cavities with foam, it will obviously be difficult to start laying blocking and electrical lines after the fact. The third thing I had to do was clean up the whole shed. That means sweeping and vacuuming up all these cavities and try to make them as dust-free as possible so that the foam can adhere to the surfaces and there won't be any sawdust or debris that might compromise adhesion of the foam to the substrate. Finally, I need to wrap and tape off all these light fixtures, switches, and this window. Once they start spraying, some material is bound to get everywhere, so we just want to make sure these fixtures are protected and kept nice and clean. So let's start working on that now. Alright, we're all set. Now it's just time to wait for the folks from EcoFoam to come in to spray foam the shed. Exciting! Alright, so today is spray day and just some last minute preparations before we spray. I had to wrap the whole exterior of the shed in this tarp just to make sure that the overspray doesn't damage our cladding. So one reason why there's some give to the tarp and it's not pulled all the way tight is so that we can actually lift it a little bit and go in through there. So we can lift this up and crawl under the shed. The problem with that though is when they spray on the inside, the overspray might come out and the overspray might land on the cladding. So I'll take you inside the shed to show you what I did. Yeah. Okay, it's too dark. Let me just set up some lights. Okay, I just finished setting up some lights inside the shed. Some last minute preparations that we did before they get ready to spray. I added this plastic sheet here by the entrance. If you notice, it's only taped up maybe halfway so that we can still get in and get out. But the side entrance is fully taped. Okay, so no one will be passing through there. I've also set up a few cameras here to try and capture the action, and if you notice, I wrapped it with some clear plastic wrap. But the reason why I did that is because apparently the two chemicals can damage camera lenses. So even on this light here, my lamp, I also wrapped it with plastic just to be sure. Okay, so that's it. That's the setup. When the guys come in, they do the spraying. Let's do this. So now let's talk about some of the reasons why I decided spray foam was what I wanted. The first reason, and I will admit that this is a lazy reason on my part, but the first reason I thought spray foam would be a good idea is that someone else would do it. After working on the foundation, framing, blocking, sheathing, roofing, cladding, electrical, I gotta tell you, I'm pretty tired. And there's still a ton of work still left to do, so if I can get an excuse to pass on some of the work, I'm taking it. EcoFoam spray polyurethane foam insulation is formed through the reaction of two liquids that come in contact during the spray application. They use special equipment and protective gear to do this, so really, doing it myself wasn't an option. And believe me, I asked if I could do it, but they said for my own safety, I should leave it to the pros. This stuff can be used for commercial, residential, and industrial applications, and the main purpose is to provide you with thermal resistance. I also read that out of all the insulation options, spray polyurethane foam seems to insulate the best, particularly because it can get into all those nooks and crannies, giving you the best chance for a well-insulated interior. Spray polyurethane foam is also lightweight. EcoFoam SPF only weighs about a kilogram every square meter, so structurally you don't need to worry about additional stresses to your framing. Finally, EcoFoam SPF is eco-friendly. The chemicals used are compliant with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources guidelines, and it even has a fire retardant additive, making it a self-extinguishing material. This means that this stuff won't be the source of a fire and will not cause fires to spread. We don't want this shed to burn down. That's a big deal.
Okay, this is right after. Look at that. It's a bit of a mess, but we'll clean all of this up. We still need to do the outside here. We'll do that after lunch. Okay, so the guys from EcoFoam are here and they brought in thermostat. So right now we're at about 31 degrees Celsius. This is at 9:35 in the morning. Let's see what the new temperature is after they install the insulation. Okay, it is now 9:35 in the morning the next day, and the temperature inside the shed is still about 31 degrees, same as yesterday, but the temperature outside is almost 34 degrees. So that's 3 degrees cooler inside the shed, and that's without any air conditioning. Not even a fan is on in here, so it's probably not gonna take much to keep this room cool. Spray foam insulation, man. Nice.
Alright, so there you have it. Insulation is done. Thanks again to the folks over at EcoFoam for helping me out with this part of the build. Next up, we work on installing the eaves, ceiling, and wall panels. That's coming up on the next video. See you on the next one.